Good morning. It's Monday morning and it's almost New Year, so you can see I am dressed for the occasion. Yay! Because it's the holidays and it's our favorite time. We're going to be talking today a lot about the new year, the old year, and what do we want to celebrate from what we went through in the last 360 whatever days of 2015. And for me, it's a very exciting time of year. I love the new year. I love the end of the holidays, even though I also love the holidays. It's a big sigh of relief that we're done with Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that stuff. And now we get to start new. So for us, that means New Year's resolutions, which me and my kids do things like this. This is how I'm going to feel really good at the end of this year when I've done all these things. So I can't wait to check them off because we'll be doing that soon. And then it's time to do, hang on, guys. The vision board. So we have a vision board party after that, and then we just get down to work, and we don't have to worry about much of anything until summer because it's just easy coasting for me. And so, yay, my favorite time of year. And Monday Momentum today, we're going to be talking all about that kind of stuff. So first, I'd like to have Linda say hi, and then pass it off to James, and then we're going to introduce Stephie Althouse, who's going to help us finish up 2015 and make big plans for 2016. So, Linda, want to say hi?
Hi. Well, good morning. Happy holidays, everybody. I'm looking forward to, 2015 coming together, closing out, and starting in the new year. And I'm really excited to listen to see what Stephie's got for us. So, good morning.
And good morning from sunny Southern California. I can't even think of where I'm at. Southern Utah.
Say, when did you go to California, James?
Grew up there for 42 years, but it's actually very, very nice, very sunny, very warm. And we were supposed to have snow on Christmas Day, but it didn't happen. The kids were disappointed. But, Santa came, everybody was happy, and we had a wonderful weekend. And just really looking forward to getting things started this week and getting ready for the new year.
New year. Woo-hoo. Thanks, James. So, Stephie, say hi. This is Stephie Althouse, everyone, and she's an amazing...
Hello. Hello. So good to see y'all. And, I'm excited as well. And... to have a little bit of a conversation about this year that we're closing out, and the wins and lessons we have learned along the way, and what we want to accomplish next year. By the way, James, I love your microphone. I have to say, I have microphone envy. This is an amazing microphone.
It's not real.
What do you mean it's not real?
Is it real? Is it real? It looks, yeah, it is pretty amazing.
It looks very manly. I don't know. Very good. Yeah.
So, Stephie, would you take a minute and tell us a little bit about what do you think the benefits are of taking some time to look back at our wins and our lessons before we move forward into the next year, willy-nilly just going forward all the time and never looking back?
Well, so maybe since I know you're outdoorsy and I am too, I'm going to give you this analogy. So imagine you're sitting in a kayak on a river, and you can either drift down this river, or you can actually steer this thing and read the currents and figure out where you actually want to go and do your best to actually go there. So that's, I think, a lot of people, the people who are attracted to working with you, working with me, and so forth, they want to not just drift. They want to actually conduct your life. They actually want to take charge of it. They have thought about what are the reasons for doing something, and they go about living their life a lot more deliberately than a lot of other people. And we're not in business just to make money, hopefully, right? Because if that's the case, then you should have a different business, I would say. But there's something much bigger behind it, and it requires reflection. It requires reflection in two regards, I would say. The end of the year is just one really good time, one of many, really good times to think about, what have we accomplished, what have I accomplished right now, right? So what are my wins? And so many times high achievers like ourselves, we move on too quickly. We don't even pause to celebrate what we have accomplished. We're like, yeah, that was expected. That was no big deal. That's okay. But we're really good at beating ourselves up about what we haven't accomplished. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And then the second part is, sometimes we think that we failed at something. But I would like to invite you to reframe that, and that it's not about that, but it's about what lessons have you learned, because you're either winning or you're learning. And sometimes it's a combination of both, most of the time actually, right? Mm-hmm. So you're learning your lessons along the way while winning, and sometimes it doesn't happen how you thought or how quickly you thought, but without all that reflection and goal setting, there's no way that you would achieve what you have achieved.
Well, I love your analogy of the kayak. I love it, and one thing I want to offer is that not just some people don't want to drift, or many people don't want to drift, I'm assuming, but sometimes people are actually paddling upstream, and that maybe some time of reflection you would be able to look around and go, wait a minute, that was the tree that I passed a while ago coming down. How is it that I'm passing it again? I'm going up. Oops. It's time to look around and notice the landmarks, and have they changed, and are they the ones that you wanted to be seeing? So
that's a very interesting point, and I have to think about that one. So yeah, actually paddling upstream, I think occasionally we do that, and maybe sometimes there's a reason to do it briefly to pick up something, right? To do that, and but you don't want to keep doing that. Yeah.
No. Well, so you said first we would talk a little bit about some of the wins in 2015. So how would somebody come up with that, or what's a good way to do it? What do you do when with your people, for instance, your clients, talking about that kind of stuff?
Well, I've been thinking about prior to the show, how to offer ways to look at that. And one way is, of course, you can sit down like we're doing now in a circle, or with a journal or some such, and think about what comes to mind. And my guess is that you're going to only get the tip of the iceberg of the wins that you have actually had in this way. Because and I would say that it's actually a really good idea to do this with some people who know you, who can say, wait a minute, Sarah, what about this? You also did this. And Sarah goes like, well, oh, yeah, I guess that is a win. So for example, you probably,
You know me very well.
Yeah, well, I know myself well too, and we all do it, okay? So we need to support each other in embracing our wins. So another way that you can do it is you can say, let's say if you have set goals before, look at those goals and say, what of that have you accomplished? Give yourself kudos for that. And then you might also go through it and say, gosh, what did I do in January? What did I do in February? What did I do in March? And go through it in that way. And just even remember what the heck you did and what you were working on. And so that's another way to basically harvest those wins and bring them back into your awareness.
Well, I love the idea of sitting down month by month, because that seems like a really long time ago, last February, and I don't know what I did. I'd have to go through my calendar, and there probably are some wins there that I've left behind as ancient history. Could we take a couple minutes to just have each one of us maybe blurt out a win or two, go around just really quickly and say, hey, did you win anything in 2015, James? Anybody want to volunteer? What was a win? I can give us. We have a Monday Momentum website now. That's a win. Woohoo!
Yay!
James, what
awesome.
do you got?
Cheers to that.
Now you said something. You said a couple of things that really stood out to me, and that is, one is that we need to pause to celebrate, and I think that is really critical, and I think that's why I am I love to participate in promotions and events and stuff. But you also said something else that really stood out, and that is when you involve other people in that process of defining your wins, isolating your wins, and writing down the things that that you have accomplished. Having other people around you is really critical. I like in this story of we're constantly overcoming obstacles and climbing mountains and overcoming things. And if we do it alone, when we get up to the top of the mountain, because we'll get there eventually, we're usually there alone. We don't have anybody around to celebrate that with or to have that acknowledgement. And so when you participate in that process with other people, it really is an opportunity to maybe remind somebody of something that they've already accomplished, because we often get kind of bogged down and we feel a little tired or a little disappointed in something. And if we have the right people around us reminding us of those wins that we have accomplished, then all of a sudden you can wipe that disappointment or discouragement out a lot faster. So I really like those points that you brought up there.
Well, I appreciate it. Now, so out with it. What are some of your wins?
Yeah, what's a win that you've had? I think just
my kids still love me. My wife still.
Okay, those are. How about James McFadden took some control over his health? I think that's.
Yeah, I did that. I've lost a little weight, and I've lost it nice and slow, and I've done it without having to be drastic in it. But yeah, I've definitely paid a lot more attention.
That's a win, and that we all should know about right here in this little circle that we're not going to let you forget. So, Linda, do you have a win you can think of for the year?
Well, before I get into the win, I just want to make a comment. You guys were talking about maybe going back in a calendar and trying to look at what wins you had. A couple of years ago, I used to use a Franklin planner religiously. And it was one of those things that every single day, you had all your different appointments and tasks and all this other stuff, and you had some space on the side of it where you could actually, write in your accomplishments and things like that. And I did that for years, and it's something I've gotten away from. And I think, focused, on this conversation, I'm going to get back to it this year, because it really helped me analyze what went on, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. And, I've got a lot of old Franklin planners that I saved. I'm going to go back and flip through them, take a look at all my accomplishments and appreciate those things. So that's something I'm going to do.
That's really awesome. And by the way, there's something that I heard Tony Robbins say around 2006 or so, whenever it was. Anyway, he said people usually vastly overestimate what they can get done in 1 year and vastly underestimate what they can get done in a decade. And I have been in business now since 2005, when, to the shock of all my colleagues, I left a six-figure income as a scientist and group leader and leader of an intellectual property committee and all this stuff, and started my own business. And it's been not a completely linear journey. That's a big understatement. But man, it's really something. And so what you just said, Linda, to actually have a record of your accomplishment over the years, it's just, all of that, guys, is just fuel in the tank, right? When you are more aware of those wins, and you use that to fuel your self-confidence, and you use that, it's like money in the bank in a way of your confidence when you hit an obstacle, and we always will. But remember that obstacles, their adversity is really the opportunity for growth. It's the opportunity for learning, and and if we didn't have any obstacles, we'd be bored with it. I mean, we wouldn't even want to do it, perhaps, you know. I mean, we say we would, but I think if it was too easy to get it, then we won't. Then we really will not celebrate it, right?
Yeah, well, that's the reminder to all of us that we're all here learning and growing, that life is a big adventure. It's not about getting it all done and then sitting back and like looking for a mountain of achievement. It's always going to be something new. So if you have that in the back of your mind, just get over it. We are here to learn and grow and change daily. That's just a reminder to the audience. So I love what Linda said, and it kind of segues into, okay, so Linda's got a new plan for 2016 already. She's gonna get back to something she used before. You know, so that's a new goal for her, getting back to using something like the Covey books or maybe exactly those, because she remembers that it was beneficial for her in helping her review. Are there other things that you would like to say, Stephie, about the idea of, you know, okay, taking what we've learned, the wins, maybe some of the lessons, and using those to help us plan what we're going to do next for the year coming in?
Yeah, so let me maybe do this. I'm going to share a quick win, I'm going to share a quick lesson, and then I'm going to share a quick, very pragmatic, very simple to do way of taking those wins and lessons and forging forward into a very successful 2016. Would that sound like a good idea?
It sounds fabulous.
All right, so thank you. One of my wins is, and I think some of you have seen this, I know you have, Sarah. So this book, June Davidson and I published this in 2015. Yeah, and we started top-notch CEO coaching circles around it, and not only that, we started a whole academy. And the idea is that typically what happens is we get some sort of professional training, be it in chemistry or in construction or in law or in medicine or whatever the thing is, but we have never been trained in leadership, we've never been trained in how to create a business around it, and this book is written with 12 chapters to exactly actually address that. And I've done some turnarounds and so forth, and grown companies that I call high talent companies, you know, companies where the owners and the staff, much of the staff is very educated and very experienced in in the core of their business. You know, so if they're in glazing, then they're very experienced in glazing. If they're a high-tech innovation company, then they're really experienced in that. So let's say in physics or whatever, right, in engineering. But how do you create a profitable business out of that? How do you transform that talent into profit and impact? So one lesson I learned along the way, to give you an example, is even if your co-author has had some really good experience with a publisher, it's still, man, the pains we had with this publisher are beyond belief. And so I think, you know, to have I learned that it's important to do more due diligence. I learned that you shouldn't give somebody all your money up front unless you know they're good for it, and you know, you probably want to use an attorney a little bit more often to maybe read the contract that you sign before you sign it. And then
well, I would just like to honor what you've just shared for a second, because those all sound like they could have been kind of painful lessons and not much fun to go through, and also maybe a little embarrassing, meaning, you know, wow, this woman knows how to do all these things, and yet, ooh, she still has issues, she still has... This is what it's like for all of us. We are really good in certain areas, and then we need to hire people to help us with other areas, and sometimes we don't know until after that they weren't the expert we thought that they were, or they weren't going to operate to our standards, and so it's the whole other thing that we just learned about. So now I bet, Stephie, you're a little bit more expert at the whole publishing thing than you ever intended to become, because of that, and I appreciate you sharing it, because this is what our lives are like. We are always learning and growing, and sometimes we are tempted to pretend that we know it all.
Well, there's the whole lone wolf syndrome that, you know, I think we keep on learning to overcome, and you know, we are doing that in the Top-Notch CEO coaching circle with each other, because we have, you know, CEOs together, 6 per circle. And we're doing this also in the network surrounding us. And so, I mean, for example, I feel very blessed that I have become part of the CEO Space network. And, you know, looking back at it, for example, there's so many people I know who know so much more about publishing, including you, Sarah, you know, that I could have tapped into and didn't, you know. And this is, I think I'm not ashamed about this, because it's not about shame. You know, it's really to just recognize, okay, I could have done this better, and I will going forward. So next year actually is going to be a year of really increasing my leverage and in my realm of impact by not being a lone wolf anymore, and really, you know, bringing other really smart and wonderful people into working with me, as you know, Sarah, and I'm very, very excited about that. So I wanted to talk for a moment about you know, how can you plan going forward? So part of this reflection thing is, so celebrate your wins, you know, identify your wins, and then please get yourself, you know, a glass of champagne, or, you know, whether you drink or not, but you get something, you know, get an ice cream, whatever, and celebrate it actually. And, you know, what I'm doing with the last few days here in this year is I'm actually going to write these down. I'm going to also write down my lessons, and I'm writing my one-page business plan. The one-page business plan, so let me talk about this for a second. So a lot of people think, you know, you got to have like some really thick business plan, and I would say unless you're raising money, that's TU. Totally useless. It's actually in many regards it's counterproductive, right? Because writing these business plans takes a long time. It's intimidating, and therefore it doesn't get done really for most people, most business people. And secondly, then let's say by some miracle you have actually done it, then it will probably sit in a drawer. But imagine a one-page business plan. How about you hold yours up, Sarah?
So this is mine. You can't read it, which is fine with me, but it's one page, and that's the whole plan right there.
Yeah. So the idea of this is, if you take the essence of what you want to happen, let's say for 1 year, and you write it down on one page, then it's actionable. You can look at it every day. You can hang it next to your workspace, for example, right? So the business plan, the one-page business plan, has only 5 parts. And I had a professor one time who taught artificial intelligence, and he would always hold up the wrong number of fingers. So I'm very worried about that. You know, it's like he would say, you know, you have 5 parts, you know, and hold up one finger. So,
this is 5. You got it.
Yeah. Anyway, no. So it has 5 parts. So there's your mission, you know, and your vision, your objectives, your strategies, and your action plan. So in the 1 minute I have, I guess, I would actually say, Sarah, if you're willing, let's do a proper job of that, maybe early next year, and do a session on business planning. But for example, I will just share with you that when June and I drive back from Lake Las Vegas to home, you know, we sit in the car, one of us drives, the other one writes notes. And this is a lot of the business planning that I've done for 2016, and so now it needs to go, you know, out of this notebook into the format of a one-page business plan. But basically, you know, you say the business plan has to contain your purpose, right, which is your mission, you say that succinctly, it becomes a compass. You jump out of bed with it. It's 8 words or less. Your vision is what do you think is possible, and what do you see happening. And this is where, you know, it's great to think big. I would invite you not to make it so big that you think it's like turning off gravity, because then you don't think it's possible, and it doesn't motivate you. But you know, make it stretch. It's a stretch vision, but don't make it so that it's like turning off gravity. And then, what are your goals? What are your objectives? And then, of course, you know, there's a shitty way of doing it, and there's a good way of doing it. Shitty is a scientific word, by the way, James.
It certainly is.
I always say that, you know. I'm using my PhD here to back up my sloppy speaking. Anyhow, so there's a method of setting objectives in a way that actually has a metric to it, has a time bound to it, has excitement to it, and you have to write it down. We call that smarter goal setting, and that's actually in the book, tip 20, as it so happens. Okay, so and then from there we say, okay, so now we know what we want to do. We have set a goal that's beyond just making more money, right? Because more money, I give you an extra sense. So now what you have, right? That's you have more money, but is that what you wanted? No, you have to be more specific, right? So then we go into strategies, and then from there we set up an action plan. So that's the way it flows down. So from purpose to vision of what you want to happen, to setting concrete objectives, to then saying, okay, how am I going to make this happen? What strategy am I going to use? And then boiling it down to an action plan. And so also I would say it is totally fine with me to say, okay, I'm going to have a plan for 2016 where, you know, all the quarters are somewhat outlined, the big picture, but I'm going to get more granular into Q1, the first quarter, and flesh out the first quarter, because we can also get hung up with, you know, dealing with too much uncertainty, not knowing how to plan it all in complete detail. I know that next year I will be running 17 top-notch CEO coaching circle for solopreneurs. That means my company. Well, that means not me. I'm not going to run all of those by myself. But you know, but the timelines for the first quarter are going to be a lot more clear. But I've already thought through, you know, so it's 2 per month, and probably none in December because people have their brain on holidays and so forth, you know. Mm-hmm. So you can think this through a bit.
That's great, Stephie, and I'm bumming that we're out of time. So I'm hoping that, you know, we'll find a time soon that you can come back and sort of flesh some of those out. You know, how do you write a vision? What's a good vision? I mean, what's an example of a well-written or well-articulated vision? And I love the way you keep bringing back to, you know, it's, I mean, I don't think for any of us here, and I hope for our viewers as well, it's not about making money. Money is the benefit of having a successful business, but it's really about an impact, making the impact that you want in the world, so that we feel like our time on this planet was well spent. So we're out of time. Speaking of
Can
time,
I just add one thing to that? Is
sure,
that
one thing.
One doesn't have to, I think, one doesn't have to apologize for wanting to make money. Mm-hmm. Money, you know, profit, that is, right? Because you can make money, not profit, make profit. But profit and impact go hand in hand. And I think sometimes people have the issue that they're too focused on just making the impact, and they're not focused enough on making sure that it's profitable, right? So they give away everything, right? But on the other hand, you know, we all understand that that money is an outcome on, you know, serving others. The more people you serve and the better you serve them, that's the law of compensation. And you can read about that in Bob Burke's book, The Go-Giver, right? The more people you serve and the better you serve them, the higher your compensation is.
Great. Thank you, Stephie. So, any last tidbits out there for Linda and James? You want to share a win, share a celebration, share a Happy New Year's? Linda, how about it?
Well, one thing that I did this year that I want to celebrate is that I put into practice that I don't have to work with just anyone.
Yay!
I could actually pick and choose my clients and work with the clients that I want to work with. So, you know, that's my big win of 2015. A lot of other cool things happened, but yeah.
That's a monumental insight, Linda. Congratulations.
Well, and I would imagine that it's not just a win that you put it into practice, but you've probably enjoyed the results of that as well. I mean, like you're working with people you're having more fun with. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely.
There you go. That's the reason we do this, folks. That's the reason you pick your customers, because that way you can have fun with the ones instead of be like, ooh, this customer is hard to work with. He needs to be babysat all the time. Well, that might be your fault because you said yes. And so Linda's learned a big lesson, and she's having a better time because of it. Yoo-hoo! All right, James, any big wins, any celebrations before we say goodbye?
Too many to mention. I really have had an awesome year. There's been a lot of I really love what you said. You're either winning or you're learning.
Yeah.
And I think all too often the psyche wants to say we're winning or we're losing. And I always tell my kids there's no such thing as failure. I've had so many what most people would consider failures that literally became the greatest win I could ever imagine. Mm-hmm. And it really is how you look at it, how you approach it, and what you do about it. And if you're mindful of it and you embrace it, it will become something that you can cherish. So I'm looking forward to 2016. It was wonderful to have you with us this morning, Steph, and do look forward to hearing some more and like to get a copy of the book. I was so distracted while we were at CEO Space, I neglected to get one. But
well, you can actually go to just call me and we'll figure that out. Or you can go on
Amazon.com, or are you going to have it online?
Yeah, you can go to Amazon and buy it there, yeah. Or you can just call me, ship you one.
Good, because there's probably thousands of viewers that want to know that same information, Sophie. If they would like to learn more about...
The title of the book again?
It's 101 Quick Tips for High Talent Companies. And in January, we will actually do a preview, 1 hour complimentary video conference / teleseminar, depending on, I prefer the video, but if somebody can't do the video, we'll let them just dial in. And we're going to do a preview on what we actually do in the Top Notch CEO Coaching Circle. We're going to get people started on the new year the right way. And if you're interested in that, can I give a phone number and an email address, Sarah? Is that okay?
If you want it to go out to the entire planet, of course you can. If you don't, you can wait and we can put it on the website, the My Monday Momentum website, or we can also put it on the YouTube channel, but whatever you like, because that's what I was going to ask, if we could put it up on the website, and I don't know if you would be willing to give a link to the business plan as well in case anybody just wants to download one of those sheets, but for sure, how to contact you and how to get the book would be
yeah, okay, I'll send this to you after and you can put it on the website.
Okay, fabulous.
Excellent.
So thank you again, Stephie. And is there one more little tiny thing? We're over time, but I want to...
Yeah, well, I would say, James, what you said a moment ago, I love both. I mean, all the comments today have been just fantastic. The lessons learned, it strikes me, are really the foundation for the big wins. You talked about how the things that most people would think are such failures, really turned into the biggest wins for you. And yes, exactly, right? So imagine if, for example, if somebody wins the lottery, right? You could say that's a big win, right? But they don't have a foundation for that. And so most lottery winners they squander their money like that because they haven't actually earned that money. They have no foundation for even handling that money and doing something smart with it in most cases, right? Mm-hmm. And so that it strikes me that we need those lessons learned in order to even be ready for some of those wins, you know. So I see them as building blocks. You know, sometimes though they're annoying. You know, I could have done without that pesky publisher, you know, being so unresponsive and all that. But then again, you know, maybe I learned a lesson here that prevents me from making that same mistake in a bigger context later on.
Yes,
exactly. You know? So do you want to learn a lesson that's associated with a few $1,000s, or do you want to learn that same lesson associated with a few $1 million?
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And pretty much everything that happens, you can guarantee that there's some lesson in there somewhere if you choose to. That making the silk purse out of the salzier that we've talked about before.
I want to throw in one more thing, and that is
we're going to go forever.
Associated with James. Yes, I know. I can't stop. James, what you said about family, you know, you started the whole thing about wins with talking about your family. I think that's phenomenal. I am in all the work that I do, I always take a pretty holistic view of things because, you know, it's obvious that there's different areas of purpose, as I call it. You know, there's oh, don't get me started. But anyway, the family is a big part of that, and yourself a big part of that. And I see yourself, you know, like a plate, and everything that you do, everything you're there for, be it your kids, your spouse, your friends, your business, your clients, all of that rests on that plate. And if you don't take care of that plate, guess what happens? Everything falls off. So the holistic, celebrate not only your business wins, celebrate your personal wins too, and take care of yourself.
Thank you, Stephie. So we're done for the day, and I'm echoing, which is miserable. There, that's better. So I just want to remind all of you.
So sorry, it has to be echoed.
It's New Year's, so celebrate. That doesn't mean be silly, though you can do that too, of course, but also take some time to celebrate the amazing accomplishments that you have for the year. Think back on all of those, dance around and celebrate your wonderful magnificence, everything that you've done, because we know what it's like to be working from home, trying to build a business, and sometimes it gets pretty lonely, and sometimes all you feel like you're doing is struggling, and that's not true. You know you made progress this year, and you're going to make more next year, and we're going to be part of it. We're going to be there with you. So we will see you next Monday. You can check us out, as you know, at mondaymomentum.com. Let us know what you'd like to hear about. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot, and Happy New Year. See you later.
Happy New Year, all, and thank you.